This is the CBS News Special Report. I'm Norah O'Donnell in the nation's capital, and we come on the air today with history in the making. You're watching the Senate, which is voting on the confirmation of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson to the Supreme Court of the United States. Jackson will become the first black woman to serve as a Supreme Court justice in the court's 233-year history. We should note that there have been 115 Supreme Court justices, but only 5 have been women, and just 3 have been people of color: Thurgood Marshall, Clarence Thomas, and Sonia Sotomayor. So Jackson will make history in other ways as well. It will be the first time that 2 black justices are on the Supreme Court at the same time, and also the first time there will be 4 female justices. 3 Republican senators have broken with their party, saying that they plan to vote for Jackson. They are Mitt Romney of Utah, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, and Senator Collins of Maine. You can hear the clerk asking each of the senators for their vote. They stand and say yay or nay. Let's bring in our CBS News chief legal correspondent, Jan Crawford, who has covered the Supreme Court for so many years. You know, for somebody like me, and I know you guys do, it never gets old watching these votes in the Senate, this history in the making. Judge Jackson is expected to be confirmed today, but she won't immediately become a justice, right?
No, she's going to be Judge Jackson for a couple more months because there's not officially a vacancy yet on the Supreme Court. Justice Stephen Breyer has announced he plans to retire at the end of the term, which is probably going to be at the end of June or early July. So at that point, she will then be officially sworn in and be able to get right to work.
And while this won't change the ideological makeup of the Supreme Court, how will her presence on the court change things?
Right. I mean, the court is divided now and will remain divided: 6 conservative justices and 3 liberal justices. So she won't really have an impact there. It won't change the court. But, you know, she will bring those very different life experiences as a black woman to the Supreme Court. She's talked about her parents who grew up in segregation and how she had a different path. She has different legal experience. She was a public defender, as you said, and different judicial experience. Bulk of her career as a federal trial court judge before she was nominated. So all of those things will come into play just when the justices are talking about cases. She'll bring in those experiences. And nor they also say a new justice makes a new court. So while it may not seem like her vote will make much of a difference, sometimes when a justice gets on the court, it causes the other justice to rethink positions or opinions that they might have had. So it'll take years for us to see, but her impact certainly will be felt.
Because the justices spend a great deal of time together.
Right, and they go in that private conference room where they sit around and discuss the cases, share their opinions, and then they go off and write their opinions or dissents, and that's where we'll see some of this, I believe.
And we want to go back to the well of the Senate chamber there because Vice President Kamala Harris, in her role as Vice President, is presiding today. She will not need to vote or break a tie vote. We do expect the vote to be 53-47, but there is a historic significance because she is the first black woman to be Vice President of the United States. So a lot to remember about this particular day. They have finished voting, and then we will hear the tally of the vote, which again, 3 Republicans voting for Judge Jackson. We want to hear it. It is expected, as we noted, 53-47, as 3 Republicans will join 50 Democratic senators in voting to confirm her to the highest court in the land. Jan Crawford pointed out earlier that there are 3 other justices on the Supreme Court who are actually confirmed with more narrow votes from the Senate. Clarence Thomas, it was 52-48. For Brett Kavanaugh, it was 50-48. And for Amy Coney Barrett, who was just President Trump's last choice to join the court, it was 52-48. And again, we are expecting the vote here to be 53-47. But the point of that is these have become increasingly partisan votes and contentious hearings. Nikole Killion is on Capitol Hill and watched those contentious hearings. And 2 of the Republicans who voted for Judge Jackson, Senator Collins and Senator Murkowski, in their statements pointed out how corrosive the process has become.
That's right, Norah, and I can say as somebody who staked out of Senator Murkowski's office and Senator Collins for days and weeks upon end, ultimately they did result in both senators backing Judge Jackson. In fact, Senator Murkowski said that she had multiple conversations with Judge Jackson before reaching her decision, believing that her judicial independence and her temperament made her well-suited and well-qualified for the Supreme Court. But she did also note what she believes is the corrosive politicization of the process, so much so that she said it was detached from reality. And in talking to a lot of these senators, particularly right after the confirmation hearings, many of them did acknowledge that the process was broken, and there is still a lot of bad blood from the hearings with Justice Kavanaugh, from the rapid hearings with Justice Amy Coney Barrett, and then from the questioning that we saw with Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, which many senators felt was beyond the pale. So certainly going forward, senators of both parties will have to do some soul searching about how they want to conduct this process going forward.
Nikole, Killion, thank you. Yes, and Judge Jackson met with 97 senators. They meet in private, get a sense, get to ask her questions, learn more about her record and her temperament. Let's bring in senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang. And Weijia, this is a huge win, if you will, for President Biden and a fulfillment of a campaign promise.
You're absolutely right, Norah. We are waiting to hear from President Biden about this at any moment. But needless to say, this is a major accomplishment. History that he wanted to make, that he told you at a CBS News primary debate that he pledged to nominate a black woman to the Supreme Court if he, in fact, won the White House. And here he is. And this is a really substantial victory for the president, just when he needs it the most. When you look at his poll numbers with regard to inflation, when you look at all of the things that he continues to grapple with, including a foreign conflict, the Russian invasion, and how that is impacting people at home. In the past couple of weeks, we have seen a very concerted effort by this administration to celebrate some of his domestic policy wins, but that's really hard to penetrate given what else is going on. So this is something that you can expect the White House will be celebrating along with Democrats right up until midterms and certainly beyond, because he needed this. And so, especially with regard to voters in the black community who have expressed a lot of frustration about some other inaction on issues that are important to them, such as police reform and voting rights. And so this is an opportunity for President Biden to say and show that he carried out a campaign promise. And of course, this will be part of his presidential legacy. Norah.
Weijia Jiang at the White House, which sounds like there's bagpipes in the background for the Irish president there. But this is, I want to bring in our chief Washington correspondent, Major Garrett, who's with us as well. And, the confirmation process is about their qualifications, yes, their temperament, all that. But they have become increasingly partisan. Many people say they started when Joe Biden was actually chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and a guy named Robert Bork, yes, was quote unquote borked, as that verb has become. But what we did see in these confirmation hearings is really the battle lines drawn for an upcoming election, right? That's right. So Republicans use the confirmation process not so much to dissect Judge Jackson's approach to the Constitution or her record judicially. There was a little bit of that, but there was much more emphasis on things like, what was your sentencing record dealing with child pornography cases? Always a surefire headline in some quarters of Republican-inspired media. And so that is part of a bridge to soft on crime, which is a larger metric for Republicans in the midterm elections. So the process historically was advise and consent. What it's become is advise and discontent. And discontent is on whatever side is in the minority and trying to block the president's nominee. And everyone has tremendous muscle memory on this. As you said, Republicans can go all the way back to Robert Bork. Democrats will say, what about Merrick Garland? And then they'll say, what about Brett Kavanaugh? And they'll say, what about? And everyone has a what about in the Supreme Court process, because it's now more commonly filtered through the politics of primaries, nominating, and presidencies, which is a big change from 20 to 25 years ago when that wasn't the case. You didn't have Supreme Court choices
being filtered through a primary, nominating, and presidential process as distinctly as they are now. So that politics carries all the way through the process.
Nobody explains this better than you. You really do. You explain it so well. We should, for people at home are saying, what are we waiting for? Where's the final vote? Well, our super producer, John Nolan, up on the Senate, tells us that Rand Paul has apparently not voted yet. So he is holding in suspense what is the expected final tally, which would confirm Judge Jackson to the Supreme Court.
But, you know, to Major's point, I mean, long gone are the days when, say, the first woman justice, Sandra Day O'Connor, unanimously confirmed to the Supreme Court. Justice Antonin Scalia unanimously confirmed to the Supreme Court. Justice Ginsburg, 96-3. I mean, that seems like that is distant past. And you know, this new divisiveness that we see, the Hatfields and the McCoys up there, where, you know, he did it first, no, he did, no, you did. You know, there's no grown-ups in the room that are going to say, just stop. And, like, I don't care who did it. I mean, as moms, we say that all the time. Like somebody. But, you know, it has an impact on the court. The court in polling is now seen as increasingly political, and when you watch these confirmation hearings, there are real consequences to that for the Supreme Court. Now, on the bright side, this is a pretty young court now with her nomination, so it may be a while before we have another vacancy on the Supreme Court. Typically, it's every couple years. When Justice Breyer was nominated, there was an 11-year period from 1994 to 2005 before another justice was, you know, came onto the court. So we may not get another one of these for a while, and maybe they'll be able to straighten up their act between now and then.
And I want you to further explain that, because the Chief Justice, John Roberts, has expressed concern about this, the polarization or politicization of the Supreme Court. How does that ruin the fabric of what they do? Well,
you know, Major, no one is better at politics than Major. No one is better at explaining the impact of the court and its nature in our civic democracy than Justice Stephen Breyer. And in speech after speech, he would talk about how, you know, the court doesn't have a standing army to enforce its decisions. It relies on the public really respecting those decisions and acknowledging that the court, when it says this is the law, the public agrees, well, that's the law. So that is the concern. And now you see the debate about, should we expand the court? Should we add more justices to the court, as some Democrats would hope? Again, justices on the court now, Justice Ginsburg, for example, the late Justice Ginsburg, Justice Breyer, they said that's a terrible idea because, again, the politicization is a real concern.
I want to bring in our senior White House correspondent, Weijia Jiang, at the White House, who's been doing her reporting. Weijia, what have you learned?
Oh, Norah, there were no public events with regard to this vote on the president's schedule, but we have just learned that he watched the vote alongside Judge Jackson here at the White House in the Roosevelt Room. So they were together when this history was made. They are together right now, and we should see some of those images at any moment capturing what is history. And unfortunately, we are also told, and as you know, covering the White House, this is very rare, that only our still photographer colleagues were allowed inside the Roosevelt Room, and no television cameras were allowed inside. We have yet to receive an explanation, but you know, this is a historic time for another reason, because we are in the middle of a pandemic. We are also in the middle of a COVID outbreak here in Washington, where many of the president's inner circle have now been hit, including House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who was just with the president here at the White House for 2 different events this week. So at this point, we can only assume that the limitation for who's inside that room right now has to do with perhaps new protocols to try to curb what is clearly COVID spreading here. But again, we know that President Biden and Judge Jackson were together as they watched the Senate confirm her nomination.
Oh, Weijia Jiang, thank you. Yeah, that sometimes happens at the White House, where they box out the cameras in order to control the message. But as Weijia points out, there's also something else going on.
Well, it sounds like the Supreme Court. You know, she's going to be Justice Jackson. There's no TV cameras in the Supreme Court either. So in many ways, that's the one value these confirmation hearings have. The public gets to see and hear the justice responding to questions. It's really the public's introduction to them. The confirmation hearings provide an important public service.
And was that public service and that opportunity wasted by many of the senators who talked about whether she had coddled pedophiles in the past, as opposed to larger issues about constitutional issues that may present itself before the Supreme Court?
Well, as Major pointed out, so often the hearings have degenerated into this, where senators are speaking to their base, whether it's Democrats or Republicans. It's both sides. And so it's hard for the nominee to kind of even talk about their philosophy. And then, of course, they all adopt the Ginsburg rule, which is that I will not speak on any issues or cases that might come before me. But they can talk about their philosophy, their life experience.
That's also a reflection of the Bork confirmation hearings, because Robert Bork was nothing but expansive and willing to take on all of these questions. And the conclusion thereafter was that was to his detriment. And what the confirmation hearings have become now is the side in favor of the nominee brings pillows, the side against them brings straight razors, and that's it. Pillows and straight razors, rhetorically speaking.
Yeah, and sometimes the judge or the nominee becomes a punching bag, really, by the...
It gets a little sliced up, no doubt.
Yeah. Let's bring in Scott MacFarlane, our congressional correspondent, who's been following this as well. Scott?
Norah, the question hasn't been, will Judge Jackson get confirmed? The question this week has been, what happens for the next vacancy? And what if Republicans control the Senate and the Democrats control the White House? Or if it's reversed, will there even be hearings? Senator Lindsey Graham ruffled a lot of feathers a few days ago when he said if Republicans had controlled the Senate at this moment, Judge Jackson wouldn't have gotten a vote. Not that she wouldn't have won the vote. She wouldn't have gotten the vote because, as Senator Graham says, the Republicans deemed her to be too liberal. Is there going to be a future where the opposing party doesn't allow a floor debate and a floor vote? We asked Senator Chris Coons of Delaware that question, and he says it shouldn't be this way, but that is a potential new reality. And really, Norah, it would be reverse court packing by one party deliberately allowing the court to go to 8 or 7 justices. And to show how quickly this has changed, it was an 87-9 vote for Justice Breyer, the justice who Judge Jackson will be succeeding.
Scott MacFarlane, thank you so much for that perspective. And there is a very good chance that Republicans will take control of the Senate.
There is certainly a, I don't want to say a probability, but Republicans feel increasingly likely that that's going to occur. I don't want to get in the projection business. I learned that bitter lesson in 2016. So, but they feel good about that. But this raises a very important structural question for the functioning of this republic. Because if you have the majority party that is opposed to the president nullifying Supreme Court vacancies in perpetuity, then we will only have Supreme Court vacancies filled after a presidential election, leaving the court disabled for that intervening period. And that's not how this republic was meant to function. It just wasn't.
No, advise and consent. Advise and consent.
That's just advise and reject.
We have just gotten in the picture, there you see, of Judge Jackson along with the President of the United States. Looks like he's grabbing her hand and congratulating her. The final vote tally has not happened because Rand Paul is missing in action up on Capitol Hill. But there have been 3 Republicans that have voted in favor of her. And Jan, coming up in the coming months, Judge Jackson will not rule on this, but there is a big issue that could influence the upcoming elections, and that's a ruling on abortion rights.
Right. I mean, the court has a frontal challenge to Roe versus Wade. It could very well, and based on the way the arguments went, it appears it may overturn Roe versus Wade, which said that a woman had a constitutional right to an abortion. You're already seeing states across the country reacting, anticipating that ruling. You've got blue states like New York passing laws saying that abortion will remain legal, and you've got some red states saying no, abortion will be illegal in our state in anticipation of that ruling, which we think will be at the end of June. And so when you think about Judge Jackson,
and just to underline that, it is possible that in June, when these rulings come down for the Supreme Court, you believe there could be a nullification of Roe versus Wade, which has, since the 1970s, given women the right to an abortion.
I do, based on the arguments, I do. And you have 6 conservative justices on that Supreme Court. So even if, say, John Roberts, who's always kind of been the swing vote, wants to hold the court back, he doesn't have that power anymore. Now, a lot can happen between now and June. Justices do change their minds, sometimes at the very last minute. And they have done so on the issue of abortion before, back in 1992, when it appeared they would overturn Roe versus Wade. But if they stay the course and say Roe versus Wade will be overturned, that means the issue will go to the states. So it'll be legal in states that support abortion rights, which would be the Democratic states. It will be illegal in some states that don't. And I hear that Rand Paul is making his presence felt.
Has appeared, and is an expected no vote. There will be lots of ink spilled on where the senator was.
But let me just finish that, too, because what Judge then soon to be in June or July, late June, Justice Jackson will be joining that court that has had this incredibly divisive issue. That's a tough time to go into the Supreme Court. We've seen it in years past when they've had these intense, contentious cases that were extraordinarily divisive, and that's where she'll be.
Here we go.
Let's listen now to the Vice President of the United States.
On this vote, the yeas are 53, the nays are 47, and this nomination is confirmed.
April 7th, 2022, at 2:18, the first black woman is approved by the United States Senate to serve on the highest court in the land. No matter your politics, it is a moment, a profound moment for this country.
Under the previous order, the motion to reconsider is considered made and laid upon the table, and the President will immediately be notified of the Senate's action.
Madam President, very happily, I note the absence of a quorum.
And you can see even the Vice President a bit emotional there. Nikole Killion covers Congress for us. And Nikole, it's rare you get to see applause like that, certainly in the Senate chamber. A joyous moment, as the Senate Majority Leader said, for the Democratic Party.
A joyous and historic moment, and I think fitting to note that Vice President Kamala Harris, somebody who has talked about being the first and not the last, presided over this vote, and that is certainly the hope that many black women in particular have with respect to this nomination, that it will open doors in the process so that Judge, soon-to-be Justice Jackson, won't just be the first, but that she also won't be the last. And so it's about filling up that pipeline in the federal judiciary, where less than 2% right now are made up of African-American women. So I think it's just important to note that history. You saw cheering in the background members of the Congressional Black Caucus who walked over from the House over to the Senate to be present for this vote. Former Alabama Senator Doug Jones in the room, who helped shepherd Judge Jackson through this process. Again, I followed them day upon day upon day, who told me earlier today he is feeling great and using that privilege as a former senator to be able to be in that room. But again, no matter your politics, the fact that a black woman has now been confirmed to the Supreme Court in its 233-year history is significant. And perhaps the part of Judge Jackson's testimony that stood out to me most was when she talked about the trajectory, talked about her parents going to segregated schools, and within a generation being able to graduate from Harvard, being able to serve on the district court, being able to serve in the circuit court, and now ascending to the highest court of the land. Even she was in awe of that trajectory. So again, this is about not only Judge Jackson, but certainly about young black girls, people across this country, opening up more doors of opportunity, no matter your race, creed, or color.
Well said, Nikole Killion. And as Judge Jackson said in those Senate hearings, I hope to inspire people to try to follow this path, the path that she took. As she said, she loves this country and she loves the law. That does it for us. Our coverage will continue on CBS News Streaming, your local news, and tonight we'll have a full wrap-up on the CBS Evening News. This has been a CBS News Special Report. I'm Norah O'Donnell. For all of us, thank you.